On today's show, the Pistons stay one of the hottest teams in the league, getting their 8th straight win against the Boston Celtics, and Jalen Brunson's late-game heroics saves the Knicks from a collapse to the 76ers. It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every single night. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And joining me is my partner in crime, the host of Locked On Heat, David Ramil. David, what did you see in the NBA last night?
A lot of action, some teams kind of closing the gap a little bit, and further pulling away also in the standings. So it's shaping up to be an interesting run towards the postseason.
We've got a lot to get to on today's show, a 9-game slate to recap of NBA action. First, we want to thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And where we're going to go for our game of the night is the Detroit Pistons continuing. They're one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now, riding an 8-game win streak, tied for the Cleveland Cavaliers also have their own 8-game win streak, but this one feels a little bit more important to the Detroit Pistons here, David. This is the last time the Pistons had an 8-game win streak was all the way back in 2008. David, wow. 17 years, and I saw somebody share some photos from what the league looked like back in 2008. You had Chris Paul on the New Orleans Hornets.
Right.
You had Kobe and Paul Pierce going head-to-head, Lakers-Celtics, that rivalry. Sure. You had Tim Duncan guarding LeBron James back with his first stint with the Cavaliers, and then above all else, Rip Hamilton shooting a jumper over Dwight Howard with the Orlando Magic. Like some serious throwback imagery here for how long it's been since the Pistons had an 8-game win streak.
It's amazing. The Pistons, look, I've been bullish on the Pistons all season long. I really like the way that they were building this team out, and the addition of JB Bickerstaff has certainly been a good one for this particular team. Maybe he wasn't the right fit for Cleveland, but he's been getting the most out of this Detroit team, and they look phenomenal. They've been playing defense at a high level, getting great performances across the board, and Cade Cunningham, obviously an all-star season for him. He's been great.
Talking about playing defense at a high level, let's throw it out to Locked On Pistons host Ku Cahill for more.
What? You know them Pistons what? You know them Pistons won again, man. 8 in a row. 8 wins in a row. They just beat the defending champion Boston Celtics. They beat the Clippers at home in a defensive masterclass. They beat the Hawks in a game they scored 148. And now they come out and they beat the defending NBA champions and put out their best defensive half in the second half of this game. The best defensive half of the season. Amen Thompson in that third quarter gave what might have been the best defensive quarter of the season, maybe of any player, completely wrecked the Boston Celtics offense and completely took Jason Tatum to Guantanamo Bay. This defensive game the Pistons put out against the Boston Celtics in that second half was clamps. A masterpiece. And now they are 33-26, and they're not just talking about winning a playoff game, they're talking about having home court advantage and getting that 4th seed. Detroit 8 in a row. You know the Pistons won again, man. Let's go.
I love Ku's energy. When the Pistons are playing well. It's fantastic. Took him to Guantanamo Bay. Took him to Rikers, wherever you want to say. Took him to Azkaban for all of our Harry Potter fans out there. Look, you look at the stat line, and it doesn't do it justice when you look at Tatum's stat line in this game. He had 27 points. 10 of 19 shooting, 4 of 9 from distance, 6 boards, 3 assists. Did have 4 turnovers, all of them coming early in that first quarter. But Amen Thompson's defense on Tatum was sensational in this game. He was blowing up plays left and right, showing a level of physicality, and this is something that you get out of Amen Thompson. He's such a freak of nature athletically. There's so many things that he can do on the floor that other players can't do, and it's also just like an innate instinct on defense, right? It's like a second nature kind of thing, just understanding where to be, how to play certain angles, how to use his body, how to shade properly on defense. There's a lot of things that almost can't be taught that just kind of come naturally to certain defenders, and Amen Thompson's absolutely one of them.
He was phenomenal tonight. But look, no Jaylen Brown also available for Boston. So they were able to key in on Tatum, kind of limit him to some degree, try to keep him from getting, a monster performance there. And as a result, when you have a defender like Thompson who can kind of lock him in or at least keep him in check somewhat, it kind of allows the rest of the team to be able to shade a little bit on their players, stay kind of home a little bit, defend a little bit more tightly, and they really did a phenomenal job. Drew Holiday struggled, Kristaps Porzingis struggled, Al Horford struggled. So a lot of the starting lineup was really struggling out there, and it was a great part due to the fact that they were able to limit Tatum the way they were and keep Thompson on him almost one-on-one. So it was a phenomenal performance for him. I really liked this Detroit team, and they did a great job against Boston tonight.
Let me ask you this. Is Cade Cunningham All-NBA this season? I think he almost has to be.
I think he gets it. I think he gets it.
Like it would be third team, right? It'd be close. But, I mean, right now he's averaging just under 26 points a contest, a little over 6 rebounds, and 9.5 assists per game, which is third in the NBA. I feel like with how well this Pistons team is playing, and like Koo was saying, right, they're not gunning for just a playoff spot. They're looking for potentially home court advantage. Now, whether or not they are able to eclipse, the Bucks, the Pacers, they're only a couple, 1 or 2 games back in the loss column of both those teams right now in the standings out east. But I feel like Cade almost, if he keeps this level of play up for the rest of the season, and even if the Pistons finishes like the 6th seed, I feel like he's a lock for All-NBA third team, right?
That makes sense. I mean, you've got Shea and Donovan Mitchell probably as your first teamers at guard. You've got Jalen Brunson. Who else am I missing here? Somebody else is going to be. Not going to be.
Luka's missed too much time, right? Maybe I don't think Luka would be able to make it. Steph's got to probably be in the mix, but probably that's a tough one.
Third team seems right, and I mean he's earned it. Like he's had a phenomenal year, and to help carry this team the way he has. I mean, you've got to love it for Pistons fans. I mean, I can embrace that sort of enthusiasm from Koo and the Pistons fan base because after what they've been through over the last few seasons of losing so much basketball, must be such a rewarding feeling for them to be able to see this team win. I don't know that the 4th seed is attainable. It's just too tightly contested right now in the Eastern Conference, but they're going to give it their all. And I think they have a chance of winning, perhaps pulling off the upset, even if they don't get home court advantage in the playoffs. They're that dangerous at this point in time.
Coming up, the New York Knicks avoid an ugly collapse to the Philadelphia 76ers thanks to the late game heroics of one Jalen Brunson. The Miami Heat absolutely cook the Atlanta Hawks under just a barrage of 3-pointers, and the Rockets dominating the Wemby-less Spurs. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a 4th quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Using FanDuel's live betting feature is so great because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether you're backing your team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. Never feel like you missed your chance to get in on the excitement. Plus, the app is so easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And continuing on here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every single night. We thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Heat with David Ramil. He's going to have a recap of one of these next games we're going to be talking about here in just a moment. Or come check me out over at Locked On Rockets. Go find your favorite show for your favorite team. David, let's get out to our next game of the night here as the New York Knicks escaping the Philadelphia 76ers thanks to some late game heroics from Jalen Brunson. How many times have we said that this season? Let's throw out to Locked On Knicks for more.
The New York Knicks survive in what would have been a heartbreaking loss as they beat the Philadelphia 76ers 110-105 thanks to some late game heroics from Jalen Brunson. I'm Gavin Shaw of the Locked On Knicks podcast. The Knicks were dominating this basketball game. They were up by 16 at halftime. Felt like they were in total control, even without Karl-Anthony Towns. And then the offense kind of died. Philly went on a run. They took their first lead since it was 4-2, 97-96 with a little under 4 minutes to go. And then the Jalen Brunson show started 9 points in a row at one point, absolutely cooking, getting to the free throw line at will, and a back-breaking three with 90 seconds to go in Tyrese Maxey's eye. Yet another clutch step-back three for Brunson, who's arguably been the NBA's clutchest player this year. The other notable thing that happened in this game is Mikal Bridges finally got going. What's been a dismal month, too, just really forgettable outings against the Cleveland Cavaliers and Boston Celtics. He has just an exceptional first quarter, 16 points in the first, making everything. It was a much-needed breakout for him, and the Knicks survived some sloppiness.
On the other side of things here, David, for the 76ers, Paul George, who swore off of podcasting, at least temporarily, came out with one of his better games as a 76er, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, did have 7 turnovers, though 9 of 20 shooting. Tyrese Maxey, 30 points, but took him 32 shots to get there. I don't know how many times we've said that number this season where Tyrese Maxey goes off for 25 or 30 plus, but it takes him 25 or 30 shots to get there. It's some old school, like Allen Iverson level basketball being played by Maxey in Philly right now, as far as just the sheer volume and everything. But I don't know how many times so far this season we've talked about Jalen Brunson just saving the Knicks at the end of a game. The Knicks now, or at least with Brunson in the lineup, he's 14-7 in clutch situations. He's got to be the runaway favorite for clutch player of the year at this point with how reliable he is in these crunch time situations. When you need a bucket, I don't know if there's a more reliable player in the NBA right now than Jalen Brunson when you need a bucket late at the end of a game.
Between his ability to hit those tough shots, hit that fadeaway, as Gavin pointed out, or get to the free throw line, he certainly is the top candidate for clutch player of the year. He's been phenomenal, but it's a dangerous recipe. I mean, it's a process for them where their offense is often good enough, but their defense is what relinquishes these leads late in games. And then it comes up to Brunson in order to save this team. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there where you're living by this phenomenal performance by Brunson and he's saving the season to a huge degree. And yet you don't want to be in these situations where you wind up having to rely on him in clutch situations. So it's a tough one to say for Knicks fans because I know that they're very bullish on this team. But at the same time, I have too many questions about this Knicks group, and I don't know if you can count on them, especially as they're gearing up for a long playoff run. But, as far as tonight's game was concerned, he was phenomenal. Great performance from him. You don't want to, again, have to rely on late Brunson heroics in order to save you from the 76ers who have lost 9 straight now and were, again, pretty woeful. At the same time, it's always fun to see the Knicks be able to rally and come up with these great performances. And Brunson has been phenomenal. Like I said, he's absolutely an all-NBA player and certainly clutch player of the year.
It's also one of those where it's like if you don't stall out in the third quarter and only put up 22 points in that frame, then maybe you don't even get to this point. They struggled in the third, lost some of that momentum that the 76ers were able to build up a lot of momentum going into the fourth and final frame, kind of eventually building up to taking that lead and kind of looking like they were in control of this game for a little bit there. And it's not like it was, this is the thing though, is, Brunson shows up to save the Knicks at the end of the game. It's not like it was his fault that the offense sputtered as much as it did in that third quarter. In fact, he only shot 2 of 6 in that frame, but the Knicks had 7 turnovers and Brunson wasn't responsible for a single one of them, right? Just some sloppy play at times from Josh Hart, a couple other guys, things that
and no
can be clean. No Towns as well. So there's other variables to consider here for sure. Let's take it out to our next game where the Miami Heat just completely dumpstered the Atlanta Hawks. Final score 131-109. Shot a blistering 54.8% from downtown, David, hitting 23 of 42 from long distance. Walk us through what happened against the Hawks.
I have no idea. I watch this team all the time, and yet they just shot 17% against this same Hawks team a couple of nights ago. So they rebound back from a really terrible offensive performance to have one of their best ones of the season. Duncan Robinson caught fire for perhaps one of the first times in over a month. It's a blowout win against something that they haven't had since January. It's been a rare place for them to be. They've been struggling to incorporate new players onto their roster, although Andrew Wiggins has been great. Davion Mitchell was phenomenal tonight. He was 5 of 5 from three-point range. He was really, really good. And they've gotten some great performances from Andrew Wiggins. They've gotten some nice games here and there from Tyler Hero, but it all clicked today. For whatever reason, it seemed to work for this team in particular. They tightened their defense in the second half, and they wind up doing something that they haven't done, which is score points when it matters most, because this is a team that has relinquished double-digit leads like no other in the league. So you know what? It all worked out tonight. Great performances from Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, et cetera, to lead this team. But a much-needed blowout win for a team that just doesn't really seem to have any kind of clear answers right now when they're trying to gear up for a playoff push themselves.
Where are you at on Kel'el Ware? What are your thoughts on him at this point? Because I really liked him coming out of the draft, and I thought he was a great pickup for Miami. And seeing him, slowly kind of earn the trust, get inserted in the starting lineup, kind of just. Yeah. What have you seen as far as his growth and development this season?
I think it's been fine. I think they played it smartly in sitting him out earlier in the season because he just did not look like a functional NBA player. He wasn't strong enough. He wasn't self-aware. He didn't know what to do defensively. There's only so much his size and athleticism can make up for, and they were trying to win games, especially when they had Jimmy Butler on the roster, and he just wasn't a part of it wasn't a part that they could rely on consistently, but they've incorporated him in there. He was great, had a great rookie month last year. At the same time, I think teams have kind of figured out how to kind of limit his access to that lob. It's been a great threat for Miami to have something they haven't had probably in a decade, not since Chris Anderson, the Birdman, joined the Big Three team over a decade ago. They really haven't had that legitimate lob threat, but he's been great in that regard. But I think they've also managed to shut it down to some degree. Opposing teams have kind of figured out how to stop that. Without a great pick and roll ball handler, they just don't have anybody who can feed him as consistently. It would be great if they had somebody like a Trae Young who does a phenomenal job of feeding all these other players, like whether it's Onyeka Okongwu or even Clint Capella. He does a great job of finding the right rim roller and getting them the ball in a sweet spot. They don't have that in Miami, but I think that's going to stagnate Ware's a development to some degree. At the same time, he has to be able to find different ways of scoring if that rim roll isn't available to him.
I completely dropped the ball here. I have a soundbite for that. Oh, never mind. There it is.
Lob threat.
It's from back during the Steven Silas era of the Houston Rockets, and much to Rockets fans' chagrin, that soundbite has been played a lot over at Locked On Rockets, sarcastically, mind you. So, speaking of the Rockets, let's get to one more game here before we move on to our final segments. Rockets taking care of business against the San Antonio Spurs, a complete and utter blowout that is betrayed by the final score, 118-106. This game was nowhere near this close. It was the third stringers of the Rockets who completely let go of the rope and let the San Antonio Spurs third stringers start racking up some points. Not even a fake comeback, just letting them score at will, messing stuff up offensively. But Rockets led by as many as 28 in this game. They held every single Spurs starter, David, to single digits. Up and down the board. De'Aaron Fox, the marquee acquisition for the Spurs team, only had 7 points on 3 of 12 shooting to go along with a couple turnovers. Spurs couldn't get anything done against this Rockets team offensively. Guys were able to really hone in on the couple perimeter guys that could create some offense for the Spurs, and Chris Paul, De'Aaron Fox. And without Wemby out there to attract attention, to kind of play over the top of the defense, it's going to be really hard for the Spurs team to get anything done, I think, the rest of this season. And then on the Rockets side of things, Amen Thompson was sensational, continues to really be, he's just growing and blossoming into this multifaceted, superstar level player. I'm saying it right now. Like, Amen Thompson is going to be a future superstar in the NBA. He finishes this game 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, had a couple blocks, 12 of 15 shooting. And the most impressive thing to me about his game, not only just obviously the defensive stuff is out there, and he should be a lock for one of the 2 all NBA defensive teams this season with how well the Rockets have been defensively and how impactful and how big of a part of it he has been. But his touch around the basket, he's only in year 2. He hasn't even finished year 2 yet, David. And he's like slowly understanding. It was back in around January or so when he realized, if I just elevate in the paint and get to this floater or get to like a Euro step and just elevate and jump over everybody, I'm already massive, I'm already tall, I've got the length, nobody can block my shot. All I have to do is work on my touch, like within that 5 to 8 foot range around the basket. And he's got this like unguardable little array of moves around the basket where if he doesn't get all the way downhill, then he just elevates and he knocks it down over the top, and it's game over.
He's only going to continue to get better. It's a phenomenal job by the Houston team to draft a player like that. I mean, obviously it was a no-brainer, but he's just continued to grow, develop. And once he starts hitting free throws regularly, I think, once he starts upping his attempts as he continues to draw more and more contact with his physicality and explosiveness, he's just going to continue to be better. So I don't know, superstar status, kind of a high level for him to reach, but at the same time, he's certainly capable. At least it looks that way so far in his second season.
He's like a blend. He's like a hybrid between Russell Westbrook and Giannis Antetokounmpo. If that doesn't have superstar written all over
come
it.
on.
I do.
No homerism whatsoever. Not at all.
No, you know what? I'll take all the homerism. This is home cooking right here, but he's going to be a superstar. He's going to be an all-star next season, and he's going to be a superstar down the line. We can revisit this podcast in a few years, David. I promise you that. Bookmark it right now. Freezing cold takes, you got nothing on this because it's not going to happen. All right, he's going to be a superstar. All right, coming up, got the final stretch of our games to get to. The OKC Thunder rally from down 18 to beat the Nets in a vintage James Harden performance, including a dagger 3 as the Clippers escape with a win against the Bulls. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national saving average account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. And final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. We've got 5 games left to get through here, where in our final segment, David and I will get to our triple threat rundown, where you shoot, drive, or pass. You shoot if you have a take about a game, you drive if you have a question about a game, and you pass if there's not really much else to add to it. So let's get to our first game here. The OKC Thunder rallying from down 18 to get the win against the Brooklyn Nets. Let's throw out to Locked On Thunder for more.
Thunder got down 18 points to the Brooklyn Nets. Then they got down by 15. This team showed you the good, the bad, and the ugly all in one game that eventually the Thunder ended up winning, and winning pretty handedly down the stretch of this game in the fourth quarter, thanks to them finally showing you effort and intensity on the defensive end, which led to really good offense for the Thunder down the stretch of this game. It's pretty simple, though. I mean, the collapse on Monday and the hole that they dug themselves into today, if the Thunder don't compete defensively, they're not going to win games. And so you have to just do what your identity is. And for this team, it's playing defense. And they didn't do that well in the second half against Minnesota. Didn't do that well in the first half tonight against Brooklyn. They lost the Minnesota game. They got down big in the Brooklyn game. And so, yeah, if the Thunder don't compete defensively, they're not going to win. But they ended up pulling this one out by getting the car back on the road on that end of the floor and finding their offense down the stretch of this game with big performances from Wiggins and Wallace. And the team was able to gut this one out onto Atlanta on Friday.
Aaron Wiggins off the bench for the Thunder in this one, 24 points on 11 of 19 shooting. Cason Wallace, 13 points on 6 of 10. SGA finished with 27 points on 11 shots. 12 of 13 at the free throw line. Just a ridiculous stat line for him. On the net side of things, Day'Ron Sharpe led the way with 25 points on 8 of 10 shooting. All 5 starters for the Nets in double figures. David, shoot, drive, pass. What you got for me?
I'm going to drive on this one. Not much to say about the Thunder performance because this is what they do. Even if they're down, they're always so dangerous. And they're such a great team that they're capable of coming back almost against anybody. Just happened to be against the Brooklyn Nets. But my question is, are the Nets going to somehow fall ass backwards into a play-in spot despite intentionally trying to lose out this season? Because with the Chicago Bulls continuing to stink it up and the Philadelphia 76ers losing games left and right, finding new ways to do so, are the Nets somehow going to get a play-in seed?
I think it could be possible, and that's the scary thing here. Like, they're a game back in the loss column from the Bulls. I mean, At this stage, David, anything is possible, but yeah, how ridiculous would that be if you're the Nets, right? They go through the offseason, they realize, okay, well, if we want to trade Mikal Bridges, we need to get our picks back from the Rockets, so we're going to send you all these Suns picks that we have left over from the Kevin Durant trade. They're going to have to pull some serious tanking levers, and soon, if they want to play catch up to some of the other teams that have been doing this for much longer and much better than the Nets have so far this season. Credit to Jordan Fernandez, though. Like, I feel like the fact that he's still got his team playing, I can't call it high level basketball, right? But they're still a competitive team. Like, the Nets have some sneaky good wins this season against high quality opponents. They've got a couple wins against the Rockets. Now, granted, the Rockets were playing some abysmal basketball during that 6-game losing streak that they went on, but nonetheless, like, this Nets team isn't like, they're not the Wizards. They're not the Hornets. And they've got to start doing some things to actively be worse than they probably really are on paper if they want a shot at one of those top picks this year. So yeah, I think it's possible. Maybe they do fall ass backwards into the play-in tournament, which would be awful for the Nets, given what they actually wanted to try and achieve this year. Let's get it out to our next game of the night. The Clippers handling the Chicago Bulls. Game goes down to the wire, and we get a vintage James Harden performance. Let's go out to Locked On Clippers.
What a roller coaster win for the LA Clippers, but they break their 3-game losing streak with a 122-117 win over the Chicago Bulls. Clippers still on their 8-game road trip now with that win 2-3, and it was a roller coaster game for James Harden, who had some moments where he was horrible with 5 turnovers in the first half, a lot of stagnant possessions, but then he was able to score 20 points in the third quarter, getting hot from 3. Ended up going 7 for 14 from 3, including the big step back from the right wing to seal the game and make it 120-114. Then sealed the win there. Kawhi Leonard also made his return after a 2-game absence with a foot injury, and he was on a 33-minute restriction. He was pulled out of the game even though it was close late. He had 17 points, had some good and bad moments, but he still needs some more time to get back to his old self. He's got 24 games left. I also thought the bench of Ben Simmons, Amir Coffey, and Bogdanovic were the standouts. If you look at their plus-minus, it backs it all up. Solid win in the end.
On the Bulls side of things in this game, Josh Giddey with 21 points, 12 assists. Zach Collins, probably his best game in a Bulls jersey so far, 21 points, 17 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals. Kobe White had some big shots late in this game. What you got for me, David? Shoot, drive, or pass?
Vintage Harden indeed with those turnovers. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pass on this one. There's not much to say. The Clippers are finding ways to get it done, and the Bulls, well, the Bills are the Bulls.
All right, let's go out to our next game. Portland Trailblazers get the 129-121 win against the Washington Wizards. A battle of the tanking teams in this one. A career night, though, for Shaedon Sharpe for the Portland Trailblazers. A career high 36 points, 13 of 26 shooting, 3 of 7 from downtown, 7 of 10 from the charity stripe, including he had this ridiculous dunk, David. He stole an inbounds pass and then elevated, just completely flying by. I think it might have been Bub Carrington for the Wizards. I'm not 100% sure who it was, but like basically dodged somebody blocking his shot at the rim, and like his head was still at the rim, but he was like not horizontal, but just like at this awkward angle. Is ridiculous, like in-game dunk for him, possibly maybe the best in-game dunk of his career. On the Wizards side of things, Jordan Poole, 24 points, 8 of 17 shooting. Rashawn Holmes, 20 points, 5 boards, 2 assists. Perfect from the floor, 7 of 7 shooting. And then Corey Kispert off the bench, 20 points, 5 of 6 from downtown. What you got for me on this one, David? Shoot, drive, or pass?
I'm going to shoot on this one. This is going to be a scorching hot take, but listen.
I'm ready.
The Blazers are 6-4 for their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. They are 26-33, just 1 game back on the Phoenix Suns. And they'll actually have a better record at the end of the season than the Phoenix Suns. That's my scorching hot take there. I think they're actually going to wind up being better than the Suns at this point.
Honestly, is it weird that I don't even think that's a scorching hot take? Like, that's just
it's
part
the
of it
Suns.
Because I think the Suns are so bad. It's the problem.
I know.
So
no, that's fair. I think it's just, you look at the Suns team that had such high expectations at the trade deadline. They were going to acquire Jimmy Butler, and obviously they have their 3 all-stars or whatever, and they've made some moves, but man, they're just finding ways to lose left to right. 2-8 over their last 10. Listen, I not to bag on the Suns too much. It's been a disappointing season, a couple seasons for them, really. But the Blazers are, despite, again, much like the Nets, they want to tank, they want to lose games, but they're so competitive, and they've got a nice cadre of young players. they're in a good spot right now, and they certainly look like they're going to wind up with a better record than Phoenix.
I really like the Blazers core, man. If they're able to add another top prospect, which if they win, if they finish with a better record than the Suns, then they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot there. But I'm a huge Scoot Henderson fan. I love Shaedon Sharpe. Loved Donovan Clingan this past draft. Thought the world of him. Really wanted to see him maybe in a Rockets jersey as well, potentially if they were to trade down a little bit in the draft. And then I'm a huge Toumani Camara fan. I love him. He is all hustle, all energy, all the time, blowing up things defensively. Never quits on a play. This Blazers team is like sneaky good. They might be, I don't know what their situation is going to look like next year, but maybe they could be one of those like on the rise teams as soon as next season, like not like, like fighting for a play-in spot kind of territory, depending on what happens in this year's draft. Let's get to we got 2 games left for you here. Let's get out to the Kings versus Jazz. Kings get the 118-101 win against the Jazz. Let's go out to Locked On Kings for more.
Well, the Sacramento Kings don't know how to throw a lob pass in an alley-oop correctly, but they know how to beat the teams they're supposed to. After destroying the Charlotte Hornets a couple nights ago, they handled their business against the Utah Jazz to wrap up the month of February. And it's a good thing they're handling these games, because March's schedule gets as brutal as it gets. So anytime you can pick up wins like this, you absolutely need to in a tight playoff race. Keegan Murray had just his 4th 20 or more point game of the season and his first since November 24th. But good to see him get going on both ends of the floor. And Jonas Valanciunas continues to be a nice force off of the bench for the Sacramento Kings. A really good pickup who doesn't just put up numbers, but also can play a decent amount of minutes to give Domantas Sabonis some needed rest for the home stretch of this season. A good win for the Kings, but still a lot more work to do.
I didn't realize Keegan Murray's scoring had really fallen off that badly this season. I knew he was kind of having a down year, but my goodness, not having cracked 20 points since all the way back in November is kind of ridiculous. On the Jazz side of things here, Walker Kessler led the way with 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, perfect from the floor, 10 of 10 shooting. David, what you got for me? Shoot, drive, or pass on this one?
Let's pass on this one. The Jazz, obviously, they're continuing to find ways to lose themselves, so they're doing their job. They're just 14-44, obviously, but at the same time, there's not much you can say about it. And I don't know about the Kings either. What was one of the better teams in the league just not that long ago has found ways to struggle as well. And with an upcoming tough schedule, as Matt pointed out, it's not looking too good for them.
Final game of the night, Pacers-Raptors. Let's go out to Locked On Pacers. Tony East for more.
Tony East here on the floor of Gainbridge Fieldhouse with the Pacers win. Get back on track, smoking the Toronto Raptors 111-91. Looked ugly at first with some turnovers, but the Pacers recover, allowing 91 points, their fewest allowed this season. Not thought of as a defensive team, this Pacers group, but they've defended well in this year 2025 and had one of their best nights of the season on that end of the floor today. Raptors, a lot of turnovers, couldn't make anything from deep. Pacers did well, protecting the rim. Miles Turner particularly good on that end, but the story, Tyrese Haliburton carrying the Pacers on the offensive end, well over 30 points, 33 to be exact, making more threes, 6 than the Raptors' entire team did. Tyrese Haliburton today with his 7 threes on his way to 33 points and 11 assists. He's been magnificent since the All-Star break. Some time off has done wonders for him. Pacers 3-1 in that stretch. He's playing well. The team is playing well. They still sit 4th in the East, even with the Pistons and Bucks surging and running their trail. Much more on this game and the Pacers on Locked On Pacers. Stay with us.
On the Raptors side of things in this game, David Emmanuel quickly led the way, 18 points, 8 of 15 shooting. RJ Barrett with 16 points, but just 5 of 15 from the floor. Shoot, drive, pass. What you got?
This is a tough one. I think Halliburton's back, and I think that makes this team as dangerous as ever. But I still don't know if they can keep it all together with the Bucks, despite the fact that they're kind of struggling to find their way post All-Star break. The Pistons scorching hot. I wonder if the Pacers can hang on to home court advantage. I'm going to go ahead and say no, they don't. And that makes them much less dangerous once they gear up for the playoffs. But I think they'll fall out of the top 4 seed eventually.
You know, it's so tough when you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, because out in the West, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you're in the 2nd seed, 3rd seed, whatever, then you're basically trying to be on the other side of the bracket from the Thunder, ideally, right? Whereas in the Eastern Conference, you're kind of screwed either way, because if you're in the 4 or 5 bracket, you're still potentially going to you're going to face the Celtics in the second round if you get there. Or I apologize, if you're in the 4-5 bracket, then you'll face the Cavs in the second round if you get there. And if you're not in the 4-5 bracket, if you're in the 3-6 bracket or the 2-7 bracket, whatever, you're waiting on probably the Boston Celtics. Like it's a lose-lose situation in the Eastern Conference. So it might not even really matter whether it's the Pacers or whether it's the Bucks in that 4th seed in the East. You're going to have to go through one of the Cavs or the Celtics to get where you want to go. And I, at this point, David, I just don't know if I see a team outside of maybe the Knicks that has what it takes to potentially upset one of the Cavs or Celtics. I think we're headed for a Cavs-Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. Do you think there's any other variation of that?
No, I think those are the two best teams, and they've been the clear standout. Like, they'll get challenged along the way, but I think eventually they'll emerge as the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference Finals.
All right. Well, with that, that's going to do it for our edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. We thank you so much for being here with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. For your next listen, go find the Locked On Show for your favorite team. Until then, we will catch you guys on our very next Game Night.